Okay, hey, welcome back to part 2 of our Chapter 18 review. We're in the presidency of Andrew Johnson and the whole idea of Reconstruction. Who has the authority, president or Congress, and of course the Republicans do not like this pro-union Democrat that's the 17th president, and the Republicans are in favor of furthering the rights for the blacks and passing Freedmen's Bureau, Civil Rights Act of 1866, both of which, of course, Andrew Johnson vetoes based on his belief that it is unconstitutional. So the Civil Rights Act, of course, guarantees citizenship. Civil Rights Act of 66 guaranteed citizenship to blacks in the after the Civil War, and President Johnson vetoes this, believes it's unconstitutional. They override his veto, make it law, but then quickly move that act into what will ultimately be called the 14th Amendment. Then the radical Republicans also passed what is called the Military Reconstruction Act, which, of course, the military or the southern states we divide up into military zones, and the troops will enforce black suffrage. The troops will enforce the 14th Amendment. The Military Reconstruction Acts will demand each state constitution should be rewritten in the South. Again, all of it was done over Andrew Johnson, and Johnson, his only way to get back at the Republicans is to start removing cabinet members that were put in place by Abe Lincoln, and so Andrew Johnson started to remove his cabinet members, and the Republicans passed what was called a Tenure of Office Act. And this act says Congress must approve of any removal of the cabinet by the president. And when Andrew Johnson fired Edwin Stanton, the House of Representatives quickly moved to impeach Andrew Johnson. So technically, the Tenure of Office Act was passed to impeach or to make sure that Johnson violates this, because they knew that he would. Then, of course, they can move to impeach him. And so they did. They impeached him, which basically means impeachment is a two-part process. The House voted to arrest or impeach Johnson. They got those votes, and then it moves to the Senate for the removal process. So was Andrew Johnson impeached? Yes. Was he removed? No. He was removed he was saved by one vote. So Andrew Johnson did have was not removed, but he was impeached. In 1868. The presidential election, we usher in a president with great military success. Ulysses S. Grant becomes the 18th president of the United States, wins in 68, wins in 72, and we see military reconstruction then continue. Now, Grant's administration was mired in political scandal and bribery and corruption. I know it sounds a lot like the state of Illinois, but this is actually circa 1860s and 1870s. So the Grant administration, although it did further rights for freedmen, historically is just known for the scandals and corruption that marred the Grant administration. So let's move on to the election of 1876, Tilden versus Hayes. Rutherford B. Hayes is the candidate for the Republicans, and Samuel Tilden is the Democratic candidate. So the presidential election of 1876 is absolutely pivotal because it's going to end up removing the military from the South, and hence giving back the southern states to the Southern Democrats. So here's what happened. We have Tilden and Hayes neck and neck in the presidential election. Democrat Tilden, Republican Hayes. And Tilden is one vote away from capturing the presidency. But there were some southern states that sent in a couple sets of electoral votes, so they were disputed. So there was an electoral commission set up by Congress in January of 1877 to determine who's going to get these 9 disputed electoral votes. And so the Republican Party and the Democratic Party struck a deal. The Democrats said, take the 9 votes, have the Republican president, Rutherford Bertrand Hayes, you'll become the 19th president. He had an amazing beard. And then the Democrats said, in return for those 9 votes, we want our states back. And so the Compromise of 1877 did exactly that. The Republicans got the president, and the Democrats got their states back because the Republican Party promised to remove the troops, thereby ending military Reconstruction in 1877. And there, of course, goes the enforcement of all the gains that the freed slaves had gained. There was no more protection. There's no more enforcement of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Now you're saying, how can you not enforce the 13th Amendment? Well, as people so wonderfully debated this past week, the really only option that most freed slaves had, the only skill set they had was working on the plantation. And so they quickly went right back into the same pattern of labor, remove the word slavery and insert the word sharecropper, which basically the slave owned a piece of the land, bought a piece of the land, in essence with no money down, but they're going to pay off or work off what they owed to the plantation owner, who must give some of the profits back to the freed slave or the sharecropper. But again, the sharecropper is so much in debt that they will really never get out of that poverty of being tied to the land. Monica Chatton, period 5, I believe, used the word serfdom in her debate, and that's exactly real similar to what sharecropping was. They really were tied to the land in a vicious cycle, and would never really get out of poverty or get out of debt, and thereby kind of cementing a lot of the blacks' futures for a good 50 to 60 years following the Compromise of 1877. And so this kind of takes us to chapter 20 when we come back next week, and which, of course, is the rise of big business in the North, because the Republicans passed quite a few pieces of legislation during the Civil War that promotes business. You had the Railroad Act, the moral tariff, which raised the protective tariff a lot, land grants, railroad land grants. So all this is going to foster industrialism after the Civil War and lead us to the extreme growth of big business we see in chapter 20. Good luck on the test. Again, chapter 17 and 18, Civil War and Reconstruction.